So again, this is the CDBG Community-Based Development Organization webinar. That one of the first ones we're doing this year, and hopefully we'll have a few more throughout the year. And just to go over a couple of things, please mute your phones during the webinar. I do have the capability to mute your phones as well. So if there are any issues, I should be able to do it, but just in case. And just so you know as well, we won't be taking any calls over the phone during the webinar. That said, questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. And if you have a question, please type it in your chat box. I know many of you have utilized it now. And then we'll go over all those questions towards the end. So first is what is a CBDO? And this is a special designation for CDBG funds to organizations that meet specific requirements. And this allows CBDOs to perform differently than other subrecipients and engage in some generally exempt activities. Go over some of the requirements as well. So they are organized under state or local law to engage in community development activities in a specific geographic area within the community. And this area can be as large as the county or as small as a neighborhood, depending on the scope of the activities carried out by that organization. Again, if you would like some additional guidance, you can reach out to myself or DMD staff to talk more about this and what your service area really would entail. The primary purpose is the improvement of physical, social, economic environment of its service area by addressing one or more critical problems in the area, with particular attention to the needs of low-mod individual persons. It can be a for-profit organization if the profits to shareholders or members are incidental to its operations. So in terms of organizational leadership, the governing body membership must consist of 51% of low-mod income residents of its service area, owners of entities within the service area, officers of entities located in the service area, and representative of low-mod income organizations in the service area. This is generally one of the toughest hurdles for a lot of organizations to meet to get the CBDO status. But again, you can reach out to us or look at the application for more information or kind of see more description of what maybe might an officer of an entity be or owner of an entity and kind of go from there. So additionally, in organization leadership, no more than 1/3 of the board is elected or appointed public officials or employees of the grantee. Sorry, give me 1 second. The governing body is nominated by the general membership of the organization, and the board is not an agency or instrumentality of the grantee. The leadership must avoid any potential issues of conflict of interest as well. And a lot of you may be familiar already with the CHDOs. And those are generally the closest link for the CDBG, for CBDOs, excuse me, and for CHDOs with the home program. However, there are some differences as well. It does have the similar requirements for the home program in terms of what is required from an organizational standpoint. CBDOs do not exempt an organization from being a CHDO or vice versa. And CHDOs only automatically qualify as CBDOs if that CHDO serves a single targeted area. And please contact DMD Home staff for additional information on CHDOs and applying for that designation as well. One of the biggest differences I can recommend or can kind of state is that being a CBDO does not guarantee CDBG funds. And I really want to emphasize this, that it is strictly a designation and allows you to kind of do some unique things, and which again we'll go over later in the webinar. But there is no CBDO operating budget or operating funds that would go towards being this. It is merely a designation that allows for unique activities to be carried out. Eligible activities for CBDOs. And for public service, homeowner assistance located in the NRSA and carried out as a public service by a CBDO can also be excluded from the 15% public services cap. If you're not familiar with the 15% public services cap, it means for the city of Indianapolis, for our entire CDBG award, the most we can use on public services is capped at 15%. And what that means essentially is that if you are a CBDO and you are doing homeowner assistance in the NRSA, we can go above that 15% throughout our yearly expenditure, excuse me. Job training, job placement, and other employment support services, which are specifically designed to increase economic opportunities as well. And that is a little vague in general, or in kind of a big overview. But if it is something that you're interested in pursuing, we can discuss that with you as well. For housing, a CBDO may use CDBG to construct housing for sale to LMI homebuyers in conjunction with a neighborhood revitalization or community economic development project. In addition, they may do new construction of rental housing in conjunction with, again, neighborhood revitalization, community economic development, or energy conservation. That is one of the big ones as well, is that we get a lot of asks of if we can do new construction, and we generally say no. However, the one exception is with CBDOs. For special economic development, we have technical assistance and training directly to businesses on topics such as business planning or accounting by a CBDO as part of an eligible project as well. In terms of the application process, all organizations currently qualified as a CBDO or interested in being registered as a CBDO, I'm already catching my second mistake there, are requested to submit an application by February 24th, 2016 to be qualified for the 2016 year. We will be attempting to standardize this for future years, so all applications and recertifications are done at a consistent time, and we're going to generally try for February during the time of the year. Again, I want to reemphasize that even if you are currently a CBDO, we are asking that you complete a full application again for this year. And that if you are anticipating wanting to be a CBDO even later in the year, this is the deadline so that we're not essentially taking applications as a rolling round. We really want to keep it consistent for basically an application standpoint. What you're interested in doing throughout the year as a CBDO is going to impact both our rolling round, which we anticipate in around March, and then also for our big RFP for the following year as well. These are some of the potential required documents that you will have to include with the application as well. It kind of depends on where the information is located for your organization, and it may be the charter, articles of incorporation, your bylaws, your resolutions, your 501c3 or 501c4 certificate from the IRS, and board composition, which again is always required. And I actually want to go back and for these are generally large documents, and as much as I'd like to go through your entire charter or your entire articles of incorporation, it would be very helpful if you were to highlight the sections that are relevant in order to make it as easy for us as possible. I'm sure you know exactly where they are and have picked it out. If you just highlight those sections and then point to the pages that it's referenced, this really helps us out. We have as well a board composition chart that is available on the application. And this is what will generally be asked to be filled out by individuals too. For recertification, I touched on this. Again, we're not doing recertification this year, but if you are to qualify as a CBDO, for the every 3 years we'll have a full application, and then in those 2 years in between we'll have recertification. And this will just require that you explain and certify any changes to the organization or the board makeup. we're not anticipating a lot of changes to things like your articles of incorporation, but your board may change, etc., which are pretty regular things, and we just want to recertify that you do meet the same requirements. This will be less intensive than a full application. Again, generally just an affidavit of what has changed and submitting what those changes are. So I'm going to bring up, before we go to questions, I'm going to bring up the application as well. And this is included on our website too, where you can download it. It will need to be submitted by February 24th, as I listed before. It kind of gives a straightforward step-by-step on how to complete it. And I'll ask certain questions. For example, things I mentioned, like, is the applicant organized under state or local laws as evidenced by a charter or articles of incorporation? You would just need to submit that to show that. Again, I'm not going to go over the full application. It is available on our website. If you have questions, you can send me an email or give me a call. Board composition is one that we would ask, you fill out, and we may have questions about that, and we completely understand. Right now, I'll look in the chat box, and if you have any questions, you can submit those there. I don't think we have any as of right now. Are there any questions related to the application, the requirements, what's to be expected? Again, please type them in the chat box to make them available so that we can see. Give a couple minutes in case there's any questions. So Emily Scott has one of the first ones. Does the organization have to, does the organization have to have a defined service area? Yes, it does. Now, again, this can be, or essentially Marion County could be your service area. Yes, and it is required to be in your bylaws as well, but that's it. We can work with you if you think it. So I'd say, Riley, I know that you don't have a specific neighborhood, but I believe you're generally in Marion County or potentially the greater Marion County area. Again, these are things that we can work with to kind of talk to you about. Next question is, are all 4 board requirements equal? What if they are all officers and none are LMI serving folks? Yeah, as long as it's 51%, we don't have any requirements on that part. The only thing that I would say is the no more than a third can be appointed by positions. But if all 51% are officers of an entity within the service area, kind of within a LMI service area, then that can work. That we can work with that. Again, if you have questions, we can kind of work with you to see how you would register or how you would qualify. So again, any additional questions, please type in the chat box. And I'm seeing none as of, oh, sorry, Melissa, I see yours now. Can you talk a little bit more about the piece that said the governing body needs to be nominated? Yeah, let me go back. Sorry. Let me see if I can find it over here. So sorry, let me keep skipping back. So what it was is that the governing body is nominated by membership of the is nominated by the general membership of the organization. Yeah, it's essentially that it shouldn't be necessarily government appointment. These are all coming from within the organization to nominate these positions. If you have additional specific questions, we can kind of talk about that on a case-by-case basis. So Phyllis has, if an organization has 51% LMI representation on the board, but this is not reflected in bylaws or resolutions, can the organization still be certified as a CBDO? It actually would still need to be in your bylaws. That I believe so. That 51% has to make up the board, and this kind of keeps it to make sure it's consistent. In that case, we can again talk about that or reaching that level, but we would ask that be included in. If you have additional questions, we can follow up with you too. Emily Scott, what are the current CBDOs in Indy? Let me see if I actually have the list right now. I think we have Inglewood, King Park, Mapleton Fall Creek, Riley, and then West Indy Development. And I know we've had one application before that didn't qualify at the moment, but the rest, those are the existing CBDOs as of right now. And again, just to reiterate, they all would need to reapply. Debbie asked, can you speak a little bit more about CHODOs? And I'm actually going to turn that over to Jenny to kind of speak, since she's kind of taking our home questions as of now.
Okay, so that was a vague question to speak about CHODOs. So I'm not sure what the specific questions are, but CHODO is a home designation. It's the Home Investment Partnership Program, which is another grant that the city administers. And within the home regulations, a certain percentage, and I can't remember off the top of my head what that is, but a certain percentage of the funds that we receive from HUD have to go to CHODOs, eligible certified CHODOs, who are carrying out eligible CHODO activities. And that is the difference between a CDBG, CBDO, and a home CHODO. With CDBG, there is no required set-aside for CBDOs. Again, for home, we have to set aside a percentage of our funding for certified CHODOs. So that's the difference. If you're interested in a CHODO status, you can contact myself or Devin Day in our office to find out about that application process. Okay, Katie just asked when CHODO applications will be due, and I don't have that information right now. I know Sam ran that application or that process before. So if you are interested in a CHODO application, you can contact myself or Devin Day, and we can get that information for you. I just don't have it right here in this office.
One more clarification as well, and we'll get a little, I double checked the application, and for whether the 51% actually needs to be in your bylaws, I'm going to double check that with HUD. I think we're not entirely sure, but we'll include it in an FAQ as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the designated area has to be in your bylaws, but I'm not certain about the board composition requirements. So we'll get clarification on that. And then another question just came in from Debbie. Can you use CHODO for renovation? I was going to say
designation. Again, these aren't CHODO and CBDO aren't funds. They're not grant sources. What they are is they're special designations in order to use the funds in specific ways. So really, when we talk about CHODO, we're talking about the home program. And when we're talking about CBDOs, we're talking about the CDBG program. So the same kind of rules and requirements apply for home as they would for if you're a CHODO using home funds.
And I think we can have a CHODO webinar too, because CHODOs are different. The requirements are different, and there are HUD-defined CHODO eligible activities as well. So I think if we could just hold off on the specific CHODO questions, we can have a webinar specifically to community housing development organizations as a topic.
Any other additional questions that you may have, please type it in. If you do have any questions that you think of at a later time, please email us and we can respond to you, but then also include them in a FAQ to attach to this webinar as well, with additional guidance that we may provide. Okay, seeing no additional questions, we will end this webinar, but thank you for attending. And again, feel free to reach out to us with any questions you have about the application or CBDOs in general. Thank you.